At 6:15 on the morning of September 20th, 1944, Major Charles Carpenter crouched beside his Piper L4 Grasshopper on a muddy airstrip near Aracourt, France. Fog rolled over the fields, hiding German Panther tanks advancing toward trapped American positions. Carpenter, 32 years old, had flown 47 combat sorties. 6 bazookas were bolted to the wings of his tiny, fabric-covered plane. Once a high school history teacher from Moline, Illinois, he now stared down the 5th Panzer Army, 262 tanks strong, sent to crush Combat Command A of the 4th Armored Division just 2 days earlier. The L4 Grasshopper weighed 765 pounds empty. Carpenter's modifications added nearly 90 pounds beyond its maximum payload. 6 M9 bazooka launchers hung from the wing struts, each armed with 3 M6A3 rockets. Every other L4 pilot in France flew reconnaissance missions, circling safely above the battlefield with binoculars, calling coordinates to artillery. But Carpenter had spent 3 months watching American tank crews die in steel coffins below him. 48 Shermans had been destroyed in just 2 days at Aracourt. Panthers could penetrate their armor at 1,200 yards, while the American 75mm gun needed 300 yards for a kill shot. Most crews never got that close. September 18th had brought fog before dawn, and German tanks used it as cover. Carpenter had taken off at first light, only to circle blindly for 90 minutes, the ground beneath a featureless white void. By the time the fog lifted, 11 Shermans were burning in the fields around Lonville. He had watched men bail out, some survive, most not. One Sherman's ammunition storage exploded, hurling the turret 40 feet into the air. The loader stumbled out, uniform on fire, collapsed after a few steps. Carpenter could do nothing but mark the position and call it in. By September 19th, German forces were pressing hard. Combat Command A was stretched across 12 miles of rolling farmland. American tankers fought from concealed positions, barely keeping the Panthers at bay. Carpenter remembered hearing of Lieutenant Harley Merrick and Lieutenant Roy Carson, who had mounted bazookas on their L4S to destroy 2 German trucks. If they could do trucks, Carpenter thought, he could do tanks. He found an ordnance technician and a crew chief willing to help. Together, they bolted 3 M9 launchers to each wing strut, wired them to cockpit switches, and christened the plane Rosie the Rocketer. Other pilots called it suicide. The fabric wings of the L4 were untested under such strain. Bazooka rockets produced over 1,000 degrees of exhaust flame. Carpenter had no idea if his overloaded aircraft could survive a combat dive. Yet at 6:42, he released the brakes and lurched into the foggy morning. The Grasshopper climbed through the mist at 400 feet per minute, sluggish under its extra weight. Carpenter leveled at 1,500 feet, white nothing all around him. By 9:53, patches of ground appeared through breaking fog, fields, trees, the Rhine Canal reflecting gray skies. He dropped to 1,000 feet and began a systematic search, scanning for German armor. 3 miles northeast of Aracourt, he spotted them. Panther tanks, 6, maybe 7, moving through partially obscured terrain, armored cars nearby, infantry on foot. Carpenter had fuel for 1 attack and a safe return, 90 minutes max. The M9 bazooka had a 300-yard effective range, and to hit a target he had to dive at a steep angle, nose down 30 to 35 degrees. Every movement was a gamble. He positioned south of the column, sun behind him, descended to 200 feet, and pushed forward into the first dive. 80, 90 miles per hour, fabric wings creaking under stress, bazooka tubes screaming in the wind. At 100 meters, he pressed the firing switch. Flames shot back, rockets streaking toward the lead Panther. He pulled up hard, German infantry opening fire. Bullets ripped past the cockpit, one tearing through the fabric wing, another hitting the tail. Smoke rose from the Panther's engine deck. Immobilized, not destroyed, but the effect was enough. The column scattered. The Germans were no longer ignoring observation planes. Carpenter climbed back toward Longueville, bullets still pinging off Rosie's wings. Reloading took 14 minutes. 6 rockets slid into the launch tubes. By 12:19, he was airborne again, climbing east toward Aracourt. Fog had mostly cleared. Visibility extended to 5 miles. Soon he spotted another formation, 8 Panthers with infantry moving alongside. Artillery would take too long. Carpenter had to attack immediately. He dived again, engine screaming, wings trembling. Rockets launched cleanly. The lead Panther stopped, smoke pouring from its engine. The rest scattered. German infantry dismounted, desperately trying to engage him with machine guns. Carpenter had 11 rockets remaining. The Germans were actively hunting him now. A third dive, tail section trembling from previous damage, elevators barely responding, rockets firing, and 1 Panther burned. The aircraft groaned under the strain. The last 4 Panthers, 10 German soldiers, all converging on a trapped American waterpoint crew. Carpenter had seconds to act. He dropped to 200 feet, terrain following, keeping below the effective range of anti-aircraft fire. From this angle, he could strike while avoiding most gunfire. At 150 feet, with the damaged elevator resisting him, he fired the remaining rockets. Flames erupted, the first Panther's ammunition storage detonating, the second burning. By the end of the assault, 4 Panthers were neutralized, 2 destroyed, 2 immobilized. 20 American soldiers were alive. Carpenter turned west toward Longueville. Rosie's engine, hot and damaged, would not last much longer. The Grasshopper became a poor glider, descending toward the runway. He spotted a field northeast of the airstrip, flared gently, the tail wheel touched first, main gear digging into soft mud. The plane flipped forward. Carpenter hung upside down in the harness, fuel leaking, seconds from igniting. He broke free, rolled clear, and stumbled to safety. Ground crews sprayed foam, and he emerged with only minor cuts and bruises. September 20th had been a day of miracles. 3 sorties, 18 rockets expended, 4 Panthers neutralized, 20 Americans saved, and 1 Grasshopper wrecked. Carpenter's innovation worked. Bazookas mounted on observation aircraft could kill tanks. Over the next months, Carpenter flew 63 more bazooka missions, officially credited with 6 tanks destroyed, 2 Tigers, 4 Panthers or Panzer IVs, plus numerous armored and soft-skinned vehicles. Witnesses suggested the true number might have been higher, impossible to verify given the distances involved. Other pilots abandoned the concept after 1 mission, the risk too great. But Carpenter persisted. He knew the war demanded relentless action. The Germans adapted. Cubs were no longer ignored. Infantry carried anti-aircraft weapons. Commanders posted spotters. Carpenter became known as the Mad Major, Dear Veruca Major. He embraced the name. By December, he had flown 110 combat sorties, never wounded, still attacking from his fragile L4. In early 1945, he was diagnosed with Hodgkin's disease, given 2 years to live at most. Carpenter had survived far more dangerous threats than cancer, and now he faced a different enemy. Yet he lived, teaching history again in Urbana, Illinois, to teenagers, sharing lessons from battles he had survived. Against all odds, he outlasted the prognosis, dying at age 53 in 1966, 21 years after diagnosis. Rosie the Rocketer survived too. 4 decades, it flew in a civilian club in Vienna, forgotten. In 2018, the Collings Foundation began restoring the aircraft, bringing history back to life. Carpenter's tactics would not survive the war. Helicopters and dedicated ground attack aircraft replaced improvised weapons. But for 4 months in 1944, when American tanks were dying against superior armor, one history teacher flew a 65-horsepower observation plane into anti-aircraft fire and stopped German Panthers, because someone had to do something. If this story moved you, hit that like button. Subscribe to uncover more forgotten tales from World War II, stories of courage, innovation, and survival. Drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from. Every viewer helps keep these memories alive, honoring the men and women who fought so boldly.